Hi, I'm Dee Vicino, and this is More Than One Way to Live a Principled Life. I've thought about starting this podcast for a long time now, and honestly, I kept talking myself out of it. I don't love shouting into the internet, and I don't love hot takes. I'm not interested in being one more voice telling people that they're doing life wrong. But I am interested in something else. I'm interested in the idea that there might be more than one way to live a good, principled life, and that maybe we've forgotten how to talk about that without attacking each other. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years. I've been a working mom. I've been a divorced mom. I've lost almost everything financially, and I've rebuilt. I've watched my children spiral and then absolutely soar. I've sacrificed professionally in ways that I would do again in a heartbeat. And I've made decisions that people disagreed with, sometimes really loudly. And what I've learned is this: life is complicated, life is messy, and principles matter, and trade-offs are real. And somewhere along the way, our culture started telling women and men that there's one right script, that empowerment looks one way, that sacrifice is foolish, that independence is the highest virtue, and that fulfillment comes from achievement, that children are so resilient enough to take whatever we throw at them. I'm not here to condemn that, but I am here to question it, because I've lived long enough now to know that what sounds good in theory doesn't always hold up in practice. Now, this podcast is about conversations, long conversations with mothers, with fathers, with economists, with therapists, with religious leaders, with skeptics, with people from the right and from the left, people who agree with me and people who don't. Not to prove a point, but to explore what it actually means to live a principled life in a messy world. So if you're here for outrage, this is not the place for you. But if you're here for honest conversation and maybe to reconsider a few assumptions along the way, I'm glad you're here. Ready? Let's go. Now, in the spirit of true transparency, I do have some cheat sheets here because this is going to be a long conversation and it's just me all by myself talking to you. So I want to make sure I stay on track and I don't go too long and I don't stray, because I have a tendency to go down rabbit holes. And I'm that person who's squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. And I don't want to do that to you. So I've got some notes just to keep me on track. So as I said before I was a full-time mom, I was a teacher. And during my first year teaching, I was there for just about a minute when I found myself pregnant with my very first baby. I was married at the time, brand newly married, as a matter of fact, and newlywed, pregnant with my very first baby girl. She was a surprise, and the happiest surprise of my whole entire life. And I left teaching because I had high blood pressure and it was a terrible teaching job, to be honest. I was in an inner city school with very little support from my administration, which wasn't the greatest thing in the world. Loved my students, loved my students. They were so difficult. They were so hard. I had 43 kids in a class with a fire code of 41 kids. And if you know what that means, it means I didn't have enough desks for my children, because you weren't supposed to have more than 41 kids in a class, but I did. So it was a challenge, to say the least. So I left teaching. I didn't leave teaching, but I did leave because I was pregnant and I had pregnancy-induced hypertension. So I had to go on bed rest. So I had my baby in June, and she was the most beautiful, precious little angel in the whole wide world. But I knew I needed to go back to teaching. So my husband and I decided that I would stay home with my baby until the following January, and then I would return back to work then. Well, January kind of was rolling around, and we decided, well, that's kind of a hard time to go back to school, and it'd be very disruptive to students. And we didn't want to disrupt the school year for students, and that maybe I would wait until the following school year and start in the fall, with a brand new school year. And that would be the better thing to do, the easier thing to do. So we waited till the following semester. And I really, I didn't want to leave my baby. So we started doing the math and what my income was going to be and what the cost of going back to work was going to be, what it was going to cost to either have a nanny, ooh, really expensive, especially on a teacher salary, what it was going to cost to do daycare, also really expensive, what transportation was going to be for me to get back and forth to work, wardrobe, all the things. And it turned out I wasn't going to make a whole lot of money going back to work. And it just didn't seem very cost effective. So we made the decision that I would stay home and raise my little baby girl, which was a fantastic thing. So I was home and I was raising that darling child. And we moved out of our little house and we moved into another house in the most idyllic neighborhood in the whole wide world. We were in South Florida and we moved into dreamland. We moved into this Norman Rockwell neighborhood where you could just let your children run free and wild and not have to worry about them. Everybody knew everybody. You didn't have to lock your doors at night. You didn't have to lock your cars. We had security guards that weren't security guards. They were police. So we were in a gated community with police. We were our own little city, our own little town. You just you couldn't get any better than that. I mean, talk about first world problems. We just didn't have any problems. It was wonderful. We had our second child and life was great. We were living the little dream. Our kids went to their little private schools and we had our little church and we had our little community and everything was perfect. And then it wasn't. And we got divorced. And there wasn't anything horrible and dirty and gross. There were no affairs. There wasn't anything like that. It just didn't work. It didn't work. And I think regret is not a good thing. You can't dwell on past. You can't dwell on regret. I think if there was one thing I was going to go back and change in my life, I would have worked harder on that marriage because it affects children more than I thought it would. Um, yeah, it just does for me. That's my opinion. You can have yours. That's fine. But if there were one thing in my life I would change, and I don't know that the outcome would be any different. It probably wouldn't. We would probably still be divorced. But I think I would probably go back and work a little harder on that segment. At any rate, that's what happened in my life. We ended up getting divorced. And I was in a fortunate position that even with the divorce, I didn't have to go back to work. My lifestyle didn't change. I was able to still stay home and raise my children and travel and do the things that we did. So we stayed in our house. My kids kept their mom at home and everything pretty much stayed copacetic. I do remember one thing that they were very upset about when we got divorced because my husband and I, we always had date night. We would go out once a night, once a week. Go out once a night. We didn't do that. We went out once a week. They had a babysitter. They had a great time with the babysitter. We had the most fun babysitter in the world. And she has grown up to be like one of the most successful people in the whole wide world. You know who you are. I won't say your name because I don't want to embarrass you, but you know who you are. And we still love you so much. And I follow her on Facebook and comment. She knows who she is. She's amazing. But they loved it. They loved her and they loved all of that. But when we got divorced, I didn't need a babysitter anymore because my children were at their father's house a couple nights a week. And he didn't need a babysitter anymore because they were with me most of the time. So we both had more free time than we had when we were married. And they were very upset about that. And they would tell me, Mom, you need to go out and we need a babysitter because this is too much. We have too much time with you. We need a break from you guys. So I would go out like once a week when the kids were home. And my friends gave me so much grief about that. I was a bad mom. They thought I was a bad mom because I was going out when I had my children. And I would have to explain to them, listen, I'm not a bad mom. I'm a good mom because my kids are overwhelmed. We're overparenting. They're getting overmommed and overdadded. And they have requested this. They have requested that we go out so that they have a break from the parents. Bad mom for getting a babysitter. Can you believe it? Anyway, so that was one of the hiccups in this whole divorce syndrome. Another hiccup in the whole divorce syndrome was I was very active in my community. I volunteered a lot in the community, with the church, with the whole thing. And that had to stop because I didn't have a husband at home to take care of the children. I was able to do a little bit more now that I had the babysitter because I had the babysitter at night, and so I could do a few more things. But my community involvement stopped. And so then I started getting this reputation that I didn't care about my community anymore, and I didn't care about my church anymore. And you just can't win. There's no winning. And so that was hard. So divorce, there's a lot of extra things that come with divorce that you don't anticipate coming with divorce. When you get divorced, it's just this whole crazy cycle, and everybody likes to chatter, 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 chatter. And nobody talks to you about it. Nobody talks to you about it. I remember one time I was over at one of my closest friends' houses, kind of commiserating, because it's a sad time. It's a sad time when you get divorced, even if it's something that you think you want. It's still a sad time. And I was over, and her phone rang, and she answers her phone, and it was another friend of ours. And she's like, "Hey, I heard Didi Vicino's getting divorced. What's going on?" And she said, "Well, she's sitting right here on the couch. You want to talk to her?" Of course she didn't. But it's just all of this hubbub and little g games of telephone and people calling each other and craziness. So anyway, there was a little bit of craziness in my life. Sorry, I'm getting back to my notes here because I've already strayed from the first card. I told you I go down rabbit holes. Um, but I did I'm on divorce now, so I'm already halfway through the second card without even having to flip. See, we're getting there. Didn't need all those cards apparently. Um, but it did cause some strife in my family. My sister-in-law, who I love with my whole heart, and she's more of a sister than a sister-in-law, but she comes from a very traditional, very religious family, and my divorce threw her for a loop, and she was not happy with me at all. In fact, she stopped speaking to me for a really long time, and it was really, really hurtful. And I wasn't welcome in her home, and my brother had to deliver that news to me, and that was really hard for him because my brother and I are very, very close. We're best friends, and we're still best friends. And we talk to each other at least once a week, usually more than once a week, and we visit each other as often as we can. We don't live close. And it was a hard time. She was really, really upset with me for breaking up my family, and my brother. He didn't side with his wife, but he respected his wife's decision, and he had to tell me that I was not welcome in their home. I'm going to get a little emotional. I wasn't welcome in their home, and that was really hard because I just loved them so much. And, they're, I only had, my children loved them so much. My sister-in-law's name is Yuritsa. It's a tough name to pronounce. She's Puerto Rican. So my kids called her Aunt Pizza because that was easier for them to say. So Uncle Ben and Aunt Pizza was really cute. But I understood. And, the Bible says that, if you're not a religious person, that's okay. But just to give some context it will provide a little context for my divorce and her rationalization and my being okay with my brother taking this stance. It says, "You shall leave," when a man gets married, it says, "You shall leave your family and cleave unto your wife." And that is what my brother did. And that is exactly what he should do. He should put his wife first, whether you are a religious person or not a religious person. Your job, in my opinion, as a man, as a husband, as a father, is to put your wife first. And had my husband done that in our marriage, we would probably still be married. My husband did not do that in my marriage, which is the primary reason that we got divorced, because he did not cleave unto his wife. He cleaved unto his family. And I love his family. Do not misunderstand. We're fine. We get along great. Everything's fine with his family now that I'm not married to their son anymore. It's funny. They loved me so much before I married their son. They didn't love me so much when I was married to their son, but they loved me a whole lot when I was not married to their son again. So we're good. Everything's good. Everybody's happy. We get along great. But there were years where we didn't get along great. But my brother did the absolute right thing, as hurtful and hard as it was. And those were some hard years. And there was I think it was a couple years. I don't remember because it was so long ago. My children are older now. They're grown adults married. So this was a long time ago, and I didn't keep track of the time because I'm not a vengeful, spiteful person. But it was hard. And I remember sitting down and writing my sister-in-law a letter and just kind of explaining what had happened in my marriage and the reason for the divorce. She was pregnant with my nephew at the time, and just letting her know that I wanted to be a part of his life and how much I loved her and thought of her as a sister and not a sister-in-law, and to please um, not take that from me and to let me have the gift of a nephew, and how much my children missed her, because it was almost impossible for me to be able to bring them there and drop them and then leave, because they wouldn't understand that. They were little. They wouldn't understand that mommy wasn't able to be a part of visits with Uncle Ben and Aunt Pizza. They weren't going to get it. And I don't know what happened. She got the letter. She never told my brother about the letter. My brother had no idea that she got the letter, that she read. He didn't know about the letter for years. But he called me and he said, "Hey, Yuritsa asked me to invite you and the girls over for Easter." We never spoke about it. We never spoke about the letter. We never spoke about the not speaking. It was like it just never happened. And it all went away. And to this day, we've never, well, we did speak about it a little bit recently, just a little touch. But we've never spoken about it. And it all went away. All the angst was gone, animosity was gone, and it was just nothing but love. And it has been nothing but love since then. And it's fine. And I love my sister-in-law so much, and she loves me so much. I love her son is my heart because I have girls. So he's like my boy. And he's just the best kid in the whole world. And watching him grow up has been one of the greatest joys of my life. We lived very close at the time. And, I was in southeast Florida. He was in southwest Florida. So we weren't very far apart. And we were able to visit a lot. Now I'm in Colorado. He's in southwest Florida. So we don't get to see each other as much, but we see each other as much as we can. So divorce taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. One thing was try harder. Try harder. We had a great divorce counselor, and I remember towards the end of our divorce counseling on how to divorce well, we both looked at each other and said, had we had him as our marriage counselor, maybe our marriage would have worked. But by the time we had gotten to that point, we both felt that it was too late. We were past the point of no return. But I learned that you can divorce well, that we had a lot of friends or acquaintances going through divorce who didn't divorce well. And there was a lot of angst and anger and animosity and fighting and power plays. And we didn't do that. We were very civil, tried to be very fair. We spent holidays together for the kids. We were together for Christmas Eve. We were together for Christmas morning. We just tried to keep things as steady as possible for the children. There was some angst on his part for a little while. He would say things about me that weren't okay. And the kids would come home and tell me things, they would ask me questions about things I was doing in my life that I wasn't doing in my life involving men. And I wasn't doing those things. And so I would have to call him and say, "Hey, you can't do this. You can't say these things to the kids. That's not okay. It's called parental alienation, and it's against the law. And you will lose custody of the kids if you continue that. And I know you don't want that. So let's maybe not do that. That's probably a really, really bad idea." And he wasn't thrilled with those conversations, but he understood and he would stop, and that was okay. Um, so we had mostly amicable divorce. But I learned that you have to put your principles ahead of your emotions, because it's really, really easy in times like that to get emotional and to let your emotions drive you. And watching people around me, friends and family and ex-husband, letting emotions drive them. And I'm not here to say I was perfect, and I'm not here to say I didn't have emotions, I had a lot of emotions. I remember dropping to my knees in the middle of my living room after tucking my kids in and just dissolving into tears. And so what have I done to my family? What have I done? What? And that's hard because you can't put it back together again. It's it's hard, even if it's the right thing. And in that moment, it was the right thing. But there's a part of you that says, was it? Was it the right thing? Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But it's the thing, and it's the thing that we did. And you just have to move forward with it. And I can't have those emotions in front of my kids because I have to be strong in front of my kids and move forward. And now they're going to see this and know that mommy wasn't always so strong. But that's what you have to do. And you have to put the principles ahead of the emotions, or the emotions will eat you alive and take control of you, especially if those emotions are anger, um, and resentment and all of the negative things. You just can't go to those dark places. You have to move forward. You have to move forward, and you have to find the good. And in my case, that involved, a really strong circle of friends. And I did lose some friends for a while. I had an ex-husband who was chattering and saying some really not nice things about me to my really close friendship group. And because I was disappearing from, my volunteer work and my activities, they bought it for a little while, uh, which was hard. That was hard too. That was hard too. They came around, they started seeing things. They're like, hey, we're sorry. We're sorry we bought into that little myth there. And you forgive because you do. They're your friends and you understand this should be wine. It isn't, because I kind of stopped drinking. I'm not completely cold sober. You can't take my wine all the way away from me, but mostly. And it's early. I don't think it's noon yet. Now it's 11:43. But but it's okay. So that's what divorce taught me. You have to put your principles before your emotions. And so what are those principles? The principles are truth, honesty, integrity, making sure that things are calm for your children and that they see you living an honest and true life, that they see you putting their needs ahead of every other need in the world, that they are the very first priority to everything. They're the first, they're it. And every decision you make is made with their interests in mind, and that every answer you give is honest and true. The highest virtue. We say prayers every night. We live a life that is true to our moral compass and to our beliefs. And every decision we make is made with those beliefs in mind. So that's what that taught me. On to the next card. So we were clicking along at that pace and living a pretty good, charmed life in our little Norman Rockwell neighborhood with my kids running around, barefoot and scruffy and looking like little orphans everywhere they went within our little coveted walls, which was great. And then 2008 hit. I was not financially savvy. I had a lot of investments. I stayed within my husband's family's investment group because I had always been in that investment group. And again, I was not financially savvy. So I trusted his financial advisors to take care of me, which was a really big mistake. They were buying a lot of stock in a coal company so that they could get seats on the board of directors in said coal company. So I was upside down in my stock portfolio, which I didn't know what that meant at the time. And when 2008 hit, I was in margin call after margin call after margin call after margin call. And if you don't know what that means every single day I owed money. And every single day I had to sell stocks at bargain basement prices to pay off this margin because I owed this much and my portfolio was worth this much. And I had to make up the difference every single day on what it was worth and what I owed every single day. A woman who knows nothing about finances and stocks and margins and things. Fortunately, I had a girlfriend who worked for another brokerage company and she hooked me up with her people. So I'm on the phone with her people and on the phone with my people, and her people are telling me what to do. So I sound like I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking to my people, and I still don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm trusting her people to tell me what to do with my plan. I'm saying, throw it to the street, throw it to the street. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Throw it to the street. I know what that means now. Val can look it up. I won't go into that because it'll bore you. I remember I was in the ophthalmologist's office because my daughter had a sty. My oldest daughter had a sty in her eye and she was having surgery. And he's standing over her with a scalpel going into her eyeball to get the sty out. And I'm on the phone screaming. And he freezes because he doesn't want to make her blind or anything. And he says, "Are you a stockbroker?" And I said, "No, I'm a mom." Yeah, that was how bad it was. I lost 75% of my net worth in 2 weeks. 75% of everything in 2 weeks. Now, some of you will be sympathetic and some of you won't, because I was living a pretty idyllic life at the time. I didn't have to work. I had a beautiful home. I had a lawn guy. I had a pool guy. My kids were in private schools. Life was good. So you're like, well, Dee Dee, welcome to the real world. I had a real world awakening. Surely did have that. Had to sell my house. Had to get a job. Oh, damn, Dee Dee, had to get a job. But for me, that wasn't a big deal. I'd had a job before. I'd worked all my life. I grew up very poor. My mother was a single mom. She worked 3 jobs to keep us, fed and clothed and with a roof over our head. I worked my way through high school. I worked my way through college. I went to school on college loans. It's not like I was a pampered little thing growing up. I was just a pampered little thing as a wife and then as a divorced mom. So I had most of my life was not pampered. I had just this small window of pamperedness, and it was really nice. I like that pamperedness. It hasn't come back yet, but I'm a fan of pampering. Listen, if you can do it, do it. 2 thumbs up for pampering. So we sold the house, which is the only house that my youngest daughter knew and the only house that my oldest daughter remembered. We moved into the house when she was 3. So my children lost their childhood home. They lost their full-time mom. And full-time mom is wrong because all moms are full-time moms, but they lost their stay-at-home moms. They were used to having a mom always available. And suddenly I was not. I had to leave the house before they left the house in the morning because my career was education. It was teaching. The good news is I got a job at my youngest daughter's school. So I got to see her during the day. Her teacher went out on maternity leave and she was an English teacher. My daughter was begging me, "Please, mommy, please come teach at my school." And I said, "I will never teach again," because I didn't have the greatest experience the first time around, as I shared. "Please, mommy, please come teach at my school." "No, I will never teach again." "Please, mommy, please." She wore me down. So I went to the school and I said, "Hey, you probably already have someone." They said, "No, we do not. Will you please come work for us?" And I said, "Yes, I will." And I have to tell you something. It was delightful working in this little school, these kids. It was amazing experience. I had the best time working at her school. And I thought, you know what? I could do this again. This would be fun. So I started applying at private schools and charter schools. I would still kind of occasionally thinking about working in the public schools in the South Florida. But I got a job at a charter school, which I absolutely loved. It was an inner city school too. It was right down the street, literally like blocks away from the school where I had worked before, where I had such a horrible experience. Leadership makes all the difference. I was working for an incredible principal. She was amazing. I love her to this day. She was a mentor to me. She's about a decade younger than I, but she was incredible. So love her so much. Can't say enough. It was the greatest experience. Um, but it took a toll on my youngest daughter not having a mom at home. She lost In a short span of time, she lost her mom. She she lost her home. Her sister went away to college, and her sister was her best friend. So she lost her sister, and I had been dating a man for quite a while, and for 9 years, and she considered him her stepfather, and we broke up. We broke up because he's a great guy. Listen, not to no, not a bad man, not a bad man at all, but he was Peter Pan. I was dating Peter Pan, and when you're, Mary Poppins living at home full time and can do all the things, it's great. But when you need somebody to step up and be a man, he just wasn't able to do that. And I needed help. I needed help. I needed a lot of help. I needed somebody to step up when everything fell apart and unraveled. And bless him, he couldn't do it. And he's a great guy, wonderful, wonderful human being. Just didn't work. So she had a lot of loss in a really short period of time. And she just struggled. And I had to get her out of South Florida. We just had to go. There was no ifs, ands, buts about it. We had to go. We just had to go. And we had, again, great support system. We had great friends. I had a great job. I was moving up the ladder. I had gone from, you know, practically beginning teacher to team leader to department head to assistant principal of a big school. It started as a small school, but we grew. We were a big school. We had 1,500 kids in our school. And I had to leave people that I loved and career that I loved. And because I had to do this for my kid, because I'm a mama bear, and that's what mama bears do. So plucked up my family and moved to Colorado. My oldest daughter was already there. She was in college. She had some struggles of her own. So us being there helped her as well, because she needed her family around her. Moved to Colorado. Best move ever. My mother was here. So I had built-in support group with my mom. One of my best friends was here. Built-in support group with my mom. My cousin was here. Built-in support group with my cousin. My former pastor was here. Built-in support. So we had a built-in support group when we moved here, which is great. I did not have a job. I did not have a house. I couldn't find a house. I wasn't sure where we were going to live. 2 weeks before we moved, we found a house. It was great because we were going. We just didn't have anywhere to live. So we moved. My little one started at Front Range Community College. She was killing it. She matriculated over to CSU. She killed it. She ended up giving the commencement address for her college when she graduated. She got accepted into graduate school at LAM University, graduated summa cum laude, mind you, got her dream job in the fashion industry and met the man of her dreams while she was in college. He was at University of Alabama, met their mutual friend. They are now married. My oldest daughter, who has also had her own struggles, actress, singer-songwriter. She has won awards for her songs. She's killing it as well. She met the man of her dreams. She's married. Everything's going well. Life is great for them. This was the absolute best move that we could have made. Best move. Mama hasn't really settled into a career. We've been here for about 10 years now. So I've kind of popped around, done a few things, and nothing has really stuck. And that's okay, because my kids are doing great. And that is the ultimate goal. If my kids are doing great, I'm doing great. And everything else is cake. Well, fortunately, I have been able to rebuild. I was able to suck money away when I was working. I sold my house. That gave me a little bit of a nest egg, bought a much smaller house. Made some good property investments, real estate investments, bought and sold a few things, and made a little bit of money and was able to sock that away. So I've got a nice little nest egg now. I mean, I'm not living as large as I was back in those glory days, I'll tell you, but near retirement age now and able to live a nice little life without having to work full time. I would be happy to work full time, but I'm also happy to not work full time. Either is fine as long as I'm doing something that I love. And we'll see what happens with this podcasting. It would have been nice if this made a little bit of money, but that's not the ultimate goal. I am a capitalist, so I'm not against making money. So if anybody wants to send me some money, I will take it. I'm not against it. In fact, I'm a fan. But that's kind of what happened there. I'm sorry. I'm checking my notes here to make sure I'm on track. I am on track without even looking at my notes. Crazy how I know my own life. Who would have thunk? Back to the singer-songwriter, though. I am going to give my daughter a shameless plug here. If you want to look her up, she is an R-rated musician, very R-rated musician. You can find her on Spotify, I believe. I know she's on YouTube. I think she's on Apple Music. Her album is called Tailored World, Taylord, Tailored World. She is Shelby Taylor. She is hilarious. She's a musical comedian. You, if you like, if you like dirty comedians and you like music, you're gonna love her. She's hilarious. Check her out. She's so funny. And I can't remember if it was the maker of uh, South Park or I don't know, one of those silly cartoons, but like they gave her some love on Twitter back when it was Twitter. Yeah, they liked her a lot. So they liked her. So if you like that kind of humor, you'll like her. And she's traveled. She's been invited to a few states to perform in a few places, which is kind of cool in my opinion. Of course, I'm a little biased, just a little biased, but I think she's hilarious. I have some really conservative friends that think she's hilarious. I have some very liberal friends who think she's hilarious. So friends all across the spectrum think she's just the funniest thing in the world. So that's kind of where we are. But back to this little podcast. Now, there will be, this is only the beginning. This is just me talking about me. So you get to know who I am. You will never have a solo me podcast again. There will only be guests from here on out talking about what it means to live a principled life. This was just so we get to know each other a little bit. I hope I didn't bore you too much. You probably turned it off 20 minutes ago and nobody's even listening anymore. But basically, what is a principled life? It's living in alignment with your personal values and your personal morals. And what those are, I don't know what those are. I only know what they are for me. For me, integrity matters. For me, consistency matters. That's important. Honesty matters. These are principles that I live by. And every decision I make, it's really important that I'm consistent in my life, that I'm steady in my life, that I'm a woman of integrity, that I am a woman of my word. Because you're only as good as your word. And if you don't tell me the truth, I'm going to have an issue with you. And I don't judge people, but if you're not an honest person, I'm probably going to judge you a little bit. There are a few things that I judge about, but that's an important one to me, is you need to tell me the truth. I might not like it. I might not like the truth that you have to tell. A friend of mine just had to tell a friend of his recently who was running for office that he probably wasn't going to get elected. And he may want to reconsider that choice. That's a hard conversation to have with a friend because you want to rah-rah them. You want to champion them. You want to tell them really good things. And it's hard to say to your friend, yeah, I don't think this is a really good idea for you. You might want to reconsider your choice. That's a tough conversation, but that's honest. If he would have rah-rahed him, that's dishonest. This is a person of integrity. This is a person being honest. And that's really important to me. It's choosing the right thing over the easy thing. Oftentimes, the right thing is the hard thing. It's not the easy thing. But when you do the wrong thing, don't you just kind of feel it here? It just feels ooky inside. So that's another part of, for me, living a principled life is doing the right thing, even when the right thing is the hard thing. It's seeking what is good, what is honest, what is beautiful, what is true. Striving for perfection, but knowing that perfection isn't always possible and almost nearly impossible. But as long as you're making progress towards what you believe is perfect and honest and good and true, that is leading a principled life. in my opinion. So you have to figure that out, right? We have to figure that out. So what is that for you? What is it? I've got a list here. I have a little list. This is my cheat sheet. I told you I had to have one. Is is it stability? Is it sacrifice? Is it obedience? Is it love? Is it independence? Is it courage? Is it leaving? Is it staying? Those were hard ones for me. Is it choosing your children over your ego? These are these are hard. Um, I'm doing this podcast because I have questions and I want to hear from other people. I want to hear their answers to the questions that I have. Can you have it all? We've been told you can have it all, but can you have it all? Now, I'm an old darn woman. I told you earlier, I've lived a life. And there was this show on when I was in my 20s, and it was called 30 something. And I loved it so very much. It's on YouTube, actually. You can watch it on YouTube if you want to. I thought it was great. And there was an episode, and I tried to find it because I was going to put a clip in here for it, and I couldn't find the episode. So if anybody can find the episode, let me know, because this was the greatest episode. And there's the show is centered around this couple, Hope and Michael. And Hope had this baby, and she thought she could work, and she thought she could be a mom, and she, stay at, do all the things and do them all really well. And she told Michael, she goes, I thought I could do it all. And he said, you can do it all, just not all at once. And that really hit me. And I was 20, and I was like, I don't even think I was married yet. I think I was just engaged, or I was just married. It was either I was just barely married or not quite married. It was right in that phase. I certainly didn't have children, but it really hit me. And here it is, all these like 30 something years later, it still stuck with me all these years later. I have questions about empowerment narratives. I have questions about feminism. I have questions about what feminism did for us. I have questions about what feminism didn't do to us. I have questions about the promises of feminism. I have questions about where men fit into feminism. I have questions about where fathers fit into feminism. I have questions about birth rates. I'm hearing conflicted narratives on birth rates and what's happening in our country with birth rates. Are falling birth rates good? Are falling birth rates bad? What is the reason behind falling birth rates? Why is this happening in our country? I have questions about that. I have questions about meaning, the meaning of life. Where is meaning? Does it matter? Is meaning an important thing in our world and our culture? I have questions. I have a lot of questions. So that's why I'm doing this, because I figure if I have questions, you have questions. I want to explore what it means to live a principled life in a messy world. And as I said before, we're going to talk to mothers, we're going to talk to fathers, we're going to talk to economists, we're going to talk to sociologists, we're going to talk to businessmen, we're going to talk to business women, we're going to talk to entertainers and educators and all kinds of people about their opinions. And we've got some really cool guests lined up already within like 3 days. I have been reaching out to people for 3 days, and I'm so excited that people are reaching back. So I'm going to give you just a taste of a few people that we've lined up. And when I say we, I mean me, myself, and I. So those are the 3 people that are doing this right now. That's my whole staff. Those are the 3 of us. And I'm reaching out to more people, and hopefully I'll hear back from more people. So right now we have Jenna McCarthy. And if you don't know her, you need to look her up. She's amazing. She's an author. She's done TED Talks. She has written for Mademoiselle and Teen Magazine. She's got all kinds of books. She's hilarious. Lucy Biggers from the Free Press. We have Pam Sherman. She's a speaker, author, and health and fitness expert. She's been in Forbes and Strong Fitness Magazine, and she's featured on Fox 40 a lot with different ways to stay healthy. Priscilla Ron, who is an author and an educator. She was huge in the teachers union for a while here in Colorado. Not anymore. That's a whole story in and of itself. I think you'll like that. She's also a radio host. We have Eli from About the Farm on Substack, who is also an author and a writer, and she's all about health and wellness, and she's got a lot to say. She's really interesting. Victoria Bird, who is a pharmacist consultant and a menopause educator. As a postmenopausal woman, I'm really excited about that. Women's health advocate. She also has a podcast called Women Mastering Midlife. Issa Ryan, she's going to talk about motherhood, all things motherhood. Christiane Valdez, she's a journalist and a novelist. She's really all about getting behind women and championing women and helping them get published. So it's really exciting, and that's just the beginning. I've reached out to a lot more people. I'm hoping to hear back from them, but it's exciting. It's exciting that people want to talk to you and they want to share their stories with you, and hopefully inspire you and help us learn and understand what it does mean to lead a principled life in a messy world. So I hope that here you will feel welcome, that you will feel accepted and challenged and compelled to talk to other people and to ask questions. And I thank you for joining me today. And I hope you come back. And if there's anything you want to talk about, or if there's anybody you think I should talk to, I hope you let me know. I think there's some comments on all the platforms here. And if there's anybody that you want to send my way, send them, because listen, I'll talk to anybody about just about anything. Again, as long as it's respectful, I'll talk to anybody. So thanks for being here, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.